Hi, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about the difference between the comparable interface and comparator interface in Java. Okay, so these are the two most important interfaces in Java that are used for the sorting purposes. Okay, the sorting of objects. So, and they are applied on collections or arrays. Okay, so these objects can be either the built-in types like integer, string, or custom class objects, right? So how do they work, and what is the actual difference between why we need these two different interfaces when the purpose is same, that is sorting? So we need to understand this difference, and this is the most important topic from the perspective of the Java interview. Okay, so before moving on to the coding part where we understand about how to code these two and learn about their functionality through code, we will understand some basic differences between these two, which you should know. It will be much useful to understand. Okay, so let's understand their differences first. So as you can see here, we have two interfaces, comparable and comparator. Now, comparable interface belongs to java.lang package. Okay, and comparator interface belongs to java.util package. Okay, now comparable interface affects the class. So affecting the class means it is implemented by the class whose object we have to compare. Okay, but the comparator interface has to be implemented separately. It is not, we just cannot, means we are not bounded by to bounded by the restriction to implement the comparator interface within the class. Okay, another difference is comparable interface has we can do single field sorting using comparable interface. So single field sorting means when we are implementing this comparable interface, then only one field we can take and then we can sort according to that particular field. So suppose you have a student class which has ID and name. So you want to sort by ID. So you can do that, and you can write the logic. Okay, but if you want to do the by name, then you need to remove the logic of the ID and write the logic of the name. So this is how comparable interface works. It only gives the facility to do one single field sorting, whereas in comparator we can implement this comparator interface as many times according to how many fields we have, or how many various conditions we require. Okay, how many customization we can do, we require. Okay, now comparable interface does the natural order sorting. So natural order sorting you will understand in a very, when we will be doing the code part. I will tell you how the how what it meant by natural order sorting. Basically, if you want to understand that, then you understand by, suppose if two objects are equal, then it will return 0. If first object is greater than second object, it will return 1, and if first object is less than second object, it will return -1. So that's how the sorting is done, whatever logic you write. Perfect. In comparator, it also does the natural order sorting, but we can customize it also. So we will understand with the example when we will be writing the code. Next comparison is, by default it is implemented by wrapper classes like integer and double, and also by string class. So these classes implement the comparable interface by default. Okay, but the comparator interface can be implemented through class we can create another class through which we can implement comparator interface, or we can use lambda expression. So we will be seeing both ways how to do that. Okay, so let's move on to our Eclipse IDE and see the implementation of comparable and comparator interface and understand how they work. Okay, so here we are on our Eclipse IDE. So let's begin by comparable interface. So comparable interface. So I write a class name as student. Okay, and suppose this class has two fields, private int id and private string name. Okay, now you want to sort it by, you want that you get the object of you create multiple student object, and you want to include that all, you want to collect the student object in a list, and then you want to arrange the list, or you want to sort the list according to either id, which may be the roll number of the student, or maybe according to the name of the student. So let's implement getter setters, or let's just implement a constructor. That would be much better. So student, okay, student and id and string name. This dot id equal to id, this dot name equal to name. Okay, and but we need to implement a toString method. So we will go to the source and we will implement generate this toString method. Right. So this is the basic student class that we have written. Now we want to use a comparable interface because we want to do sorting. So how do we do that? So we will say student interface implements comparable. Okay. Now comparable asks for a type. Okay, it's a generic interface. So we will pass student because we want comparable to take the object, we want to comparable to sort by the student objects. Okay, now let's implement the method. So when we implement the method, the method that this comparable has, the abstract method, it is compared to method, and it has a return type of int. Okay, so let's write the logic. So if you want to implement, if you want to sort by id, okay, so id is of the type integer. So for implementing id, what you can do is you are given a type student, another student object that is being passed. So you just have to I'm changing this variable to s for convenience, and you can just write integer dot, it has a method compare, and compare you pass the id, and in the second one you pass the id of the another object of the student. Okay, so this first id that you have passed is of the current student, okay, with which you want to compare, and the s dot id is the id of the another student object with which you are comparing and sorting it. Okay, so how this is how it is performed. Now let's create student objects. So I will create 3 student objects, student 1, and let's write Stephen, student 2, let's write Roshan. Okay, so sorry that's wrong. S3 equal to new student and we write another name as Kiran. Okay, so these are the three student object. Now we create a list. Okay, list of type student, which will hold a student variable, and we say students equal to new array list, and what we do is students, we will add all the student into it. Okay, we have added this. Now let's change the order. Okay, 2, and maybe this is 1, this is maybe 3. Okay, so initially how it will be coming, let's see. So let's just print the list first. So if we try to print the list, so here it is coming. The first, now we want the student to sort by ID, but by default it will take the order in which we have passed. So first we have passed the roll number 3, so it is coming 3, then 1, then 2. But now we want to sort. So to sort it, we write collections dot sort, and we pass the students. Okay, that's all. So when we pass the students, and now if we try to print the students list, let's see what it comes. So now you can see it has sorted by ID. First 1 has come, second, then 2, then 3. Okay, so this is how we can sort. Okay, so this is how comparable interface works. If you want by name, okay, you want to sort by name, then what you have to do is just say this dot name dot compare to s dot name, s dot name. Okay, so this is how we compare. This dot name dot compare to s dot in string has a method compare to. Okay, now if we initially, let's first comment out this. So initially, and comment out this also. Initially we are printing this list. So when we are printing this list, errors is there. Okay, let's see what error is there. We have imported wrongly. So when we print this list, we get first Stephen, then Roshan, then Kiran. Okay, and let's now apply the collection.sort. So when we apply the collection.sort, what we get, Kiran as first because K come first, R comes second, and S come third. So that's how it got sorted, right? So this is how comparable works. Now let's understand about comparator. Okay, so let's understand comparator interface, and we will take a class as player, a player class. It will have two attributes. So let's take one is maybe player name, and another is player sport. Perfect. So, and similar way we will create a player constructor. So string name, string sport. So this dot name equal to name, and this dot sport equal to sport. Okay, now let's implement the toString method so that we can print our object. So okay, now we have printed it. Now the beauty of the comparator thing is that we don't need to implement this player. Okay, player is already defined, so let's take player 1, no problem in that. Player 1 is also defined. Okay, player. Okay, so the error is gone. So let's the beauty, I was telling that the beauty of the comparator interface is we don't need to implement here. This class doesn't need to implement it. So you will be curious that how then it will work. So we will implement another class. We will implement a class name sorter. Okay, or we can say sort by name implements comparator. Okay, and this sort by name implements comparator. Now comparator also takes a type. So here, because you want to sort by name, and the class to which you want to sort is player 1, so you will pass here player 1. You will pass player 1 and you will implement the method. So the method here is compare. So compare method is here. Okay. Now it takes two arguments. One is first player, two players object it takes. So I just say that it is P1 and this is P2. Player P1 and player P2. What we have to write is P1 dot get name dot compare to P2 dot get name. Okay, so the implementation or the code logic we have written is same, and we have taken the name as the parameter to come sort. Okay, so it will sort according to this. It will compare according to the name. So let's understand how to do the sorting by this. So again we will be let's create a divider, and here we will write player 1 P1 equal to new player 1, and it will have a name, whatever it name can be. It can be Sachin. Okay, so the sport is cricket. Okay, okay, then is player 2 new player 1, so the name is Messi. Okay, and the Messi plays football. Okay, then the player 1 is P3 and player 1, let's include my own name, Sudarshan, and I play basketball. Okay, I love to play basketball, so let's take basketball. Okay, so we have created the three objects. Fine. Now let's create a list of the objects. Let's create the list of player 1, and we will say players equal to new array list. Okay, so we have new array list. Let's add into players dot add first P1, then we will add P2, and then we will add P3, and then we will print the list. So we will print players. Now as I'm printing this, let's comment this out. This statement and this I comment this out, and let's run the program. So here for when we initially print the list gives the same result in the order we have added. Okay, now let's apply comparator to sort the list. So how can we do that? So to apply the comparator, we can write collections dot sort, and you can see there we first use the first sort method, which only takes a collection or a list. But in second sort method we have a second argument, which is a comparator. So we will take that. So what we want to sort? We will want to sort the list of players. So we pass that How we want to sort? So we have to pass a comparator object. So we will say new sort by name. Now this sort by name is a class that we have implemented here, as you can see, and it is implementing the comparator of type player1, and it is the player1 has a field called name. So we are basically using comparator object of type player1 and sorting the object based on the player name. Okay, that's how we pass it, and then access out the list again, players. So let's see what we get. So now we are getting by name. So M come first, so Messi is first. In S is both in case, but after the second character, Sachin comes first alphabetically, and Sudarshan comes last. So it is doing it perfectly. And if we want to do by sport, then you just have to say uh, now doing by sport. I don't want to do it by class. Okay, we have see how we can do, how we can sort by a field using class implementation. Now let's say you want to do by sports. Okay, you want cricket first, basketball second, and football third. Okay, so like that you want to do. How we will do that? So you will say collections dot sort. First you will pass players, then you need to pass a comparator. Now we will pass the comparator using lambda expression. So how we will pass using lambda expression? Now we want to sort it by using the comparator of, or by using the field sport, but we want to use lambda expression. So let's use lambda expressions. So we will say collections dot sort. We'll use second one. We will pass players, and in second one we will have to pass two arguments. So we will say p1 comma p2, or we just say player play player1 comma player2. We are passing two arguments. Okay, then lambda expression, and we will say player1 dot, and you can see we are getting the field get sport. Player1 dot get sport dot compare to player2 dot get sport. Okay, so this is how we are doing, or we are passing our comparator directly here rather than implementing the class. Okay, so this is how it is done. So now let's now print the players, or the players objects list. So if you try to print, now we are sorting according to the sport field. So we are getting basketball first, cricket as second, and football as third, and this is according to the sport sorting. This is sorted. So we are it has sorted according to the alphabetical order, right? So this is the application of comparable and comparator, and how can we use them to sort the custom objects or integer object or any field you want. So it is better to use a comparator interface rather than using a comparable interface, because comparator interface gives you more flexibility to do sorting. Okay, because if you go by comparable interface, then you just have to you can only do sorting using one field there, right? And if you want to do by another field, you have to change the logic. So it is not a good practice that you write code once and then change again and again just to so that's a very uh, tight coupled code, and tight coupled code is a very bad code practice. Okay, so to write a flexible, or you can say less coupled code, you need to we need to use a comparator object for sorting. So that's all for this video, and in the next video we will learn about more Java concepts, more questions related to it, and we will understand, and I will come up with some more interesting concepts. Okay, so till then, bye bye.